the sea in the supposedly invented at Göbekli Tepe. I call up a map on my computer screen and see that not only does southeastern Turkey adjoin Mesopotamia geographically, but also that the two areas are linked in an even more intimate and direct way. Largely occupied today by the modern state of Iraq, the ancient name Mesopotamia means literally land between rivers, the rivers in question being the Tigris and the Euphrates, which reach the sea in the Persian Gulf, but which both have their headwaters in the same Taurus mountain range of southeastern Turkey where Göbekli Tepe is situated. While I'm online, I run some searches for images of the Seven Sages. I don't get many hits at first, but the moment I change the search terms to Apkallu and 7 Apkallu, I open a colossal archive of images from all over the internet, many of them reliefs from Assyria, a culture that thrived in Mesopotamia from approximately 2500 BC to about 600 BC. I add Assyrian Apkallu to the search parameters, and even more images flood my screen. Often they show bearded men holding bags or buckets, which closely resemble those depicted on the Göbekli Tepe pillar and the one held by the Mexican man-in-serpent figure. It's not just the curved handles of these containers or their shape, where the resemblance is much closer than on the original Oannes relief I reproduced in Fingerprints of the Gods. Even more striking is the peculiar and distinctive way that the figures from both Mesopotamia and Mexico hold these containers with the fingers of the hands turned inwards and the thumb crooked forwards over the handle. There's something else as well. A good number of the images show not a man, but a therianthrope, a birdman, with a hooked beak exactly like the hooked beak of the therianthrope on the Göbekli Tepe pillar. What makes the resemblance even closer is that in the Mesopotamian reliefs, the birdman is holding the container in one hand and a cone-shaped object in the other. The shape is a little different, but a comparison with the disc cradled above the wing of the Göbekli Tepe birdman is hard to resist. I can't prove anything yet. It could, of course, all be coincidence, or I could be imagining links that aren't there. But my curiosity is aroused by the similar containers on different continents in different epochs, and so I jot down a series of questions that can form the frame of a loose hypothesis for future testing. For instance, could these containers, whether they're bags or buckets, be the symbols of office of an initiatic brotherhood, far-travelled and deeply ancient, with roots reaching back into the remotest prehistory? I feel that this possibility, extraordinary though it may seem on the face of things, is worth looking into, and is strengthened by the distinctive hand postures. Might these not have served the same sort of function as Masonic handshakes today, providing an instant means of identifying who is an insider and who is not? And what might have been the purpose of such a brotherhood? Curiously enough, in both Mexico and Mesopotamia, where myths and traditions have survived in connection with the imagery and symbolism, we are left in no doubt as to what the purpose was. Stated simply, it was to teach, to guide, and to spread the benefits of civilization. This, after all, was the explicit function of Oannes and the Apkallu sages, who taught the inhabitants of Mesopotamia how to plant seeds and then to harvest their fruits and vegetables, agriculture in other words, and who also taught them architectural and engineering skills, notably the building of temples. If they needed to be taught these things, then they must have had no knowledge of them before the arrival of the sages. They must, in other words, have been nomadic hunter-gatherers, just as the inhabitants of southeastern Turkey were until the sudden and surprising entry onto the world stage of Göbekli Tepe. The same, it transpires, was believed to be the case with the ancient inhabitants of Mexico before the arrival of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, who came to teach them the benefits of settled agriculture and the skills necessary to build temples. Although this deity is frequently depicted as a serpent, he is more often shown in human form, the serpent being his symbol and his alter ego, and is usually described as a tall, bearded, white man, a mysterious person, a white man with a strong formation of body, broad forehead, large eyes, and a flowing beard. Indeed, as Sylvanus Griswold Morley, the doyen of Mayan studies, concluded, the attributes and life history of Quetzalcoatl are so human that it is not improbable that he may have been an actual historical character. the memory of whose benefactions lingered after his death, and whose personality was eventually deified. The same could very well be said of Oannes, and just like Oannes at the head of the Apkallu, likewise depicted as prominently bearded, it seems that Quetzalcoatl travelled with his own brotherhood of sages and magicians. We learn that they arrived in Mexico from across the sea, in a boat that moved by itself without paddles, and that Quetzalcoatl was regarded as having been the founder of cities, the framer of laws, and the teacher of the calendar. The 16th century Spanish chronicler, Bernardino de Sahagún, who was fluent in the language of the Aztecs and took great care to record their ancient traditions accurately, tells us further that Quetzalcoatl was a great civilizing agent who entered Mexico at the head of a band of strangers. He imported the arts into the country and especially fostered agriculture. He built spacious and elegant houses and inculcated a type of religion which fostered peace. So, in summary, as well as a complex pattern of shared symbols and iconography, Quetzalcoatl and Oannes shared the same civilizing mission, which they delivered in widely separated regions of the world, in an epoch that is always described as being very far back in time, remote, antediluvian, and hoary with age. Could it have been as far back as 9600 BC, the epoch of Göbekli Tepe, where many of the same symbols are found, and where, although we have no surviving legends, the signs of a civilizing mission in the form of the sudden appearance of agriculture and monumental architecture are everywhere to be seen? The implications, should I ever be able to prove this hypothesis, are stunning. At the very least, it would mean that some as yet unknown and unidentified people, somewhere in the world, had already mastered all the arts and attributes of a high civilization more than 12,000 years ago in the depths of the last ice age, and had sent out emissaries around the world to spread the benefits of their knowledge. Who might these shadowy emissaries have been? These sages, these magicians of the gods, as I was already beginning to think of them. And why was there this